I have been analyzing American Eagle Outfitters from a fundamental point of view, and I'm bullish. Here is why. Starting today on the Fundamentals tab of Thinkorswim, you can see that the analysts have mixed reviews on American Eagle Outfitters. Some of these, though, have moved up from neutral to buy. I am bullish. I will be going long on this stock. You can see that the price in 2017 was around $15, found a bottom near $8 in 2020, and then soared up to $37 in 2021. We are now currently at $22.40. This is a buying opportunity, I believe. We can get some good numbers from Thinkorswim. I'm not exactly sure how these numbers are aggregated, but they do give us a pretty good idea of what's going on with the company. You can see that the earnings per share, this is a trailing 12-month number, it's at 1.8, so it is positive and this is good. 2017 it was at 107, 2018 147, 2019 112, and then of course in 2020 it was negative 126. The pandemic does skew these numbers a little bit, just about every single category I look at. Return on equity does appear to be rising with the exception of 2020. What really catches my eye though is this inventory turnover at 6.1. This is a good turnover for the sector, the Russell 2000 small cap special apparel. Now, in years past, we have seen it at 5.3, 6.4, and 4.4, and then it went negative in 2020. I'm happy to see that the company is starting to turn over its inventory, especially given supply chain issues. I think overall though, as a less international brand and more Mexico, US, and Canada-based company, that it is probably suffering fewer supply chain issues than other companies. That's speculation, but I believe that may be the case. Moving down to these valuations, you can see that the price to earnings ratio is at 11.8, which is pretty good. This is pretty good. That the price to cash flow ratio is 7.9, and what really catches my eye is the price to book value ratio at 2.8. Bulkowski would recommend looking for stocks with a price to book value ratio of about 2.1 or less, so it is a little high, but I believe that there may be a little wiggle room for the price to fall a little bit, and that would help correct that ratio. Nonetheless, it is relative to the sector, so I need to be looking at other stocks before I can really make a determination about whether these are really bullish, but they do seem to qualify as value levels worth of investing, so I'm happy about that. I'm going to pull this down because it's not a great spot to get these numbers from. I'd rather just go straight to American Eagle's website and look at their the 2021 quarter 3 report, and this is it. I've already been through this once. This is actually my second recording because I didn't have the mic on, so that's kind of frustrating. I'm going to try to do this as fast as I can. Last time I did it in 13 minutes. I'm going to try to do it in 7 now. Okay, so here you have it. American Eagle Outfitters Inc. third quarter 2021 investor presentation. Lots of people. This is basically the demographic that they're after, right? Young people. Young people. I mean, I'm technically outside their demographic now, but as you can see, I am wearing their clothes still. I actually bought this shirt in 2008 and have been holding it ever since. It's a great fit. I still think the style looks good. Anyway, okay, here we go. So going through this report, it's basically them trying to sweet talk us into investing in their company, and they do a pretty good job. They go through and tell us about how big their market is and who they're targeting, and they do boast record third quarter results with revenue rising 24% and operating income more than doubling. And this is the truth, that they are a cash flush company at this point. Well, not flush, but they do have cash flow, and they are investing in themselves, and I find it to be very appealing. This is a statement here by the executive chairman of the board of the chief executive officer. He says, as strong demand for our merchandise and brands continues, I'm very pleased to report another quarter of growth, revenue, and profit. The work on our Real Power, Real Growth value creation plan is driving meaningful improvements to our profitability through real estate and inventory optimization, omnichannel and customer focus, and our supply chain initiatives. The power of our brands, operations, and talent are clearly evident, and we are intensely focused on ensuring these strengths continue to take AOE to new heights. Okay, and this looks to be the case. I think the numbers are there. They have a few key highlights. This is kind of the cherry pick data, right? And what we're going to look at is this net revenue, these numbers about the money. You can see that from the third quarter of 2020 to the third quarter of 2021, there are increases, and this doesn't really speak to a lot of growth. This is more about a bounce, the recovery play, which does seem to be in motion, which is really good. Now, the operating income has increased a lot. Overall, very good. And you can even see Aerie here is starting to make up a good portion of American Eagle's overall income. I think it was like 26%. Now, here we go. Results by segment. I'm just going to move down to a little bit further. The balance sheet summary. This is where I really want to dig in. I'm going to zoom in here so we can see this clearly. And you can see that we have assets and then liabilities. So I do want to compare the assets to liabilities. So in cash and cash equivalents, we do, okay, and remember, these are reported in thousands. So it's 740,000 thousands, which is 740 million, I believe. I'm not very good at that ratio thing. So here we go. You can see this, that they do have cash on hand, merchandise inventory, accounts receivable. This is all good. What I want to look at mostly is this total current assets at 1.775530 thousands. All right. This is a pretty good number. I like it. You can see that they have a few other things, and they totaled to 3.7. This is okay. What I want to focus on is this 1.7, okay, the total current assets. Similarly, below in the liabilities, I'm going to do the same thing. They do have a lot of different categories, but I'm going to boil it down to this one number, total current liabilities, at 869,000 thousands, right? So that we're gonna get a ratio between their assets and their total liabilities, and that ratio is 2.04. And how does this compare to other years? Bullishly. You can see here. 1.69, 1.77, 2.04. And as the company has taken on a little bit of debt, it is good to see that this ratio is increasing. This means that the money that they have taken, they are now using to reinvest into the company, which is really good. American Eagle Outfitters even had a dividend last year, which was fantastic because they have free cash flow, and they did take about half of that that income, that profit, and reinvest it into the company. So the company does have the ability to invest in itself to grow its business, and I find this to be very bullish. Volkowski does say that you want to find a company, a small cap company that does have some debt, but then is also paying it off. So moving forward from here, I'm going to be looking for this long-term debt capitalization ratio to be dropping over time. I think that won't be a problem for the company as they continue to make money. And even their income was pretty good during the pandemic as well. There was one thing in here I did think was interesting. I don't understand it, but the operating lease right use assets, right, at 1.14, and then down here, this non-current operating lease liabilities at 1.123. I don't exactly understand how these numbers work. I do have a lot of research to do. My fundamental analysis is pretty rudimentary, but even at a rudimentary level, I think it's pretty easy to see that this company has money and is growing. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit here. Now, these real estate highlights, I think this is the most important part, is that the company is growing in terms of stores. They do have an increasing digital footprint, but they are also opening new stores as well. The value of these new stores is increasing, and this is good. This brings up the assets versus the price, and so this is why our price to book value is, that ratio is improving. It's because the value of these assets are increasing, and the price has been in a downtrend recently. This does imply that the company will be making more money in the future as their assets increase in value, which is good. I want to see that. So here we have some historical quarterly store data by brands. Not very interested in that. Here we have some more real power, real growth, value creation plan. This is how they're going to be making money. They do anticipate to double area to $2 billion in revenue, and I do have faith that they can do that because of the branding and the way they're focusing on inclusivity. I find this to be very, very positive. I really enjoy the message, and the way they sell outfits has been great, right? Especially for a guy like me. You know, I like to look like the mannequin. Just generic if I can, right? So overall, I think that the company does a pretty good job selling themselves, but they don't need to work very hard to do that because the numbers speak for themselves. When you have assets over liabilities, that's good. When you see the assets increasing year on year, that's good. When you see revenues coming in despite the pandemic, this is good. The analysts are starting to turn, and now I want to talk about why I'm bullish because of technicals as well. So I'm bullish because of the fundamentals, and now we're going to look at the technical side as well. And zoom out, and I'm going to start here on the weekly time frame. You're going to see that I drew a Fibonacci retracement from the 2020 low of 654 all the way to the top of the 2021 high at 35.22, at 38.99, sorry. And you can see that the price has fallen through these levels of retracement, more or less picture perfect, bouncing between them, and now we find ourselves below the 50% retracement level at 22.27. Zooming in on those candles, you can see here, these are pretty clear pipe bottoms. They extend past the previous price action. They are pretty tall, and we do have some good volume. The RSI on the weekly time frame here turning up, which is nice. IV falling flat, which is good because it was increasing as the price fell. I'm going to stay in the weekly time frame and move into the trend line study and zoom back out. And when I do these trendline studies, I go all the way back. So you can see that the company started trading publicly, or at least there's data here from 1994 moving onward, and the price has traded around in the $20 range as early as 2006. So to see the price at these levels again is not incredibly discouraging. In fact, it means that the all-time high was only marginally above previous all-time highs. I think that the stock may be very undervalued. Now I'm going to be zooming in on the most recent trend. This is the 2020 COVID crash recovery, and you can see that this is a very strong uptrend. I love it. Now, the company did buy back 1.7 million shares in the third quarter of 2020 back here, which I think was a good call. The price was moving in this rising wedge, and this could have been a bearish thing. It was a good time to buy back shares, and the price did increase until we found that all-time high. Now, the way that you calculate a price target on a trend line is you take the greatest distance from the highest high to the trend line itself. And when you do that and apply it to the breakout price, we get a target of $20.45, which is really exciting because that is almost where these pipe bottoms fall. The low of this candle was at $20.52, so within 7 cents of the actual target of that breakout. This is a really good sign. To see these pipe bottoms forming just below the 50% retracement and to see the price target nearly being met here, I think this is very, very bullish. And you can see the question mark here. This is the next earnings that will be coming out on March 2nd. So a good earnings report here could break this downtrend and send the stock higher. I do want to see this trend break out higher. We can go ahead and zoom out. We can start to talk speculatively about how high that bounce may take us. I think the greatest distance from the trend line is right here. All right, and if the price does break out somewhere down here, you can see the price target would probably be up in the 30s, which is a good spot. In fact, I think that there's a good setup here for an inverted head and shoulders or a head and shoulders bottom, and it may even be complex, which is great. I'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to go into the daily time frame really quick and talk about these time frames. Need to switch my drawing. Okay, here we go. So this is the pattern I see now. This is a falling wedge. We have 3 touch line support, or 3 touches of the upward trend and 2 of the bottom. This is really good. These blue arrows indicate where those pipe bottoms on the weekly chart formed. You can see the price did fall out and come back in. This is a pullback. This is good. There's a really high chance of pullback of downward breakouts. So this is not bearish at all. This is okay. You can see the RSI fell to about, what was that? Well, in the low 30s before reversing and coming up twice, never quite reaching that oversold area. Those dips occurring when the price reaches that lower trend line. This tells me that this trend line is still really good. There's a lot of support along here, and you can see volume spiking here at this touch point, and not so much here, but a little bit. You can see volume did fall pretty precipitously after a big move coming to the top of that wedge. The implied volatility was rising during this fall. You can see this, the implied volatility rising, and then it stops and the price begins to consolidate, and the implied volatility reflects that falling flat. I do think this is good. We don't want to see implied volatility continue to rise because that would signal the price is moving down lower. I do think that the price is moving into a period of retracement, and we could even see an upward breakout here within a couple of weeks. It is possible that the price will continue downward into this wedge until we have a good earnings report. That is very possible. Nonetheless, I do think that I will be selling puts along the price, the strike of this lower trend line. And if that put runs into the money, I will let it be exercised, and I'm going to use that put to enter into a position. If the put does not run into the money and I do not end up buying shares, then I will take the premium I receive to buy calls or to buy shares themselves. Either way, I'm bullish. I'm looking to enter this stock long. Now I want to talk about what an upward breakout would look like. You can see that we have this nice big round kind of a V. It's like a bottom, and then we have another one here that's very sharp. These could be shoulders. You can see the price between those two levels is fairly similar. This could be shoulder 1 and shoulder 2, and this could be a head, and this could also be a shoulder to match that. So it is very possible that we could see a move up and then another big rounding bottom. All right, that's possible. And this would be a great opportunity to buy and try to ride the price on an upward breakout of this falling wedge. Now the price could also just move higher and still form an inverted head and shoulders. And I think this is what's more likely, is that we're going to see some optimism in the markets because people have been scared sell buying and everyone's waiting for the bounce. And I think the bounce is probably going to come, and we're going to see that price rise to about there, right? About the same height as that previous minor high. And when that occurs, we're likely to see a pullback to test the pattern level, right? And before we see our breakout. And it's possible the price may even rise to that pipe bottom target before it finds that fall at 27.36. So this would imply a very volatile market, but I feel like we're in that environment right now. So I am looking for a bottoming pattern to shape up and for these price targets on the bullish side to be completed at 27.36 for the pipe bottom and 29.19 for the falling wedge. So both on a fundamental and a technical basis, I am bullish on American Eagles Outfitters, and I am going to be going long. If you want to look at the short interest, that's going to be up to you, but cheers and happy trading.